It's time for the weekly metagame report, and let me tell you, a lot of the things that we're seeing back here in the cool innovations department has been very, very cool. To the 34% of you that have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button, smash it so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. First of all, I just want to say that the YTC breakdown here, this is a giant mess. There is so much diversity here, though Tier Elements is still the leading deck by a lot. Now, usually these reports are comprised of things that they end up seeing across the map on Twitter and a lot of the giant metagame. But I mean, Cashdira purely coming in as like the sub-variants, Branded and Bysteel coming in as the third and fourth most represented decks. And then truly all of your one-ofs down here. I mean, Ninja still doing things, Mana Dome starting to kind of shake things up just a little bit. And then you have Generator and even Black Wings as well. Like, your rogue diversity curve is definitely something to really be had here at the end of the day. And it's really what you want to see is, you know, how things are kind of shaping up in terms of metagame presence. So very happy to see this. Now, in terms of your kind of innovations here, Purely is going to be the first one we're going to be looking at here, kind of showcasing to us that, hey, you know, like, the way that Purely's been playing, I think it's been dubbed to be like very similar to Sky Striker-esque in a way, where you kind of make this big cat that is unaffected by opponent's card effects that nets you, I think, like 3 draws or something during your opponent's standby phase. And at that point, you know, you make an attempt to draw into some hand traps to kind of detour the opponent from playing the game. It is something interesting to see, you know, how that is shaping up to be one of the better decks in the room. And of course, you know, we're seeing Xyz Encore kind of show up to be an out for the cat or the Rongo Reminiad as well. A lot of interesting diversity to be had, though, in a lot of the builds between Purely, though. And this is just one stray example here of the differences of the builds that you're kind of seeing here in the OCG. So I'm happy to see Purely actually functioning. Now, of course, we've got to take a little bit of a step back here. How is, you know, Fallen of Albaz doing right now? Like, what innovations have led Fallen of Albaz to kind of evolve? You know, like, what courses of action are we starting to see with this deck? Well, you're seeing Quem, of course, see play in the deck, Blazing Cartesia, of course, the Tua, and then, of course, this deck very much wants to play the Bysteel package in order to get itself off the ground. You're going to use that Bysteel package to basically have it be your defense wall while you're comboing up through, you guessed it, fusion plays. Now, Fallen of Albaz, actually, I think the coolest thing about this list is fusion deployment here. Fusion deployment into dropping, you know, Lilith from the extra deck. And then, of course, you know, you just pick your flavor of which version of Albaz fusion do I want to include in my deck. You know, am I able to, you know, get the best advantage out of this? You know, will this card help me out most in my matchup? And you have a lot of things to kind of consider there. Now, as we move on along, we're going to kind of get into some boring stuff before some better here. First list, I mean, is going to be Bysteel Synchro here. We've been kind of tracking around and seeing, you know, how best can we make a Chaos Ruler here to look at the opponent and go, what are you going to do? Like, what can you do? Like, the fact that Chaos Ruler has become such a player in the OCG, it is actually insane to me just how crazy powerful that this package has actually become. And the fact that they're now looking at Ready Fusion and making different lines of play for this deck is hilarious. Being able to make the fusion down there, I believe it's a level 6 normal monster that you can just go, hey, you know, I can tune this with, you know, like a level 4 or something and then start on with my journey. Ready Fusion actually getting some real centric value out here. It's not something that you really see in a deck like this, but it is kind of nice at the end of the day in terms of your evolving niche. Now, of course, this is going to be, the OCG has definitely started to explore a more generic Synchro approach to things, which has been very, very nice as well. The fact that, you know, 15-card Synchro decks have kind of returned back to the play. I mean, did you feel like Yusei Fudo when you play this deck? Like, is that what you want to see, is the fact that your Synchro toolbox is able to kind of, you know, go through things. Now, keep in mind that we are playing the Power Tool Dragon here. The Power Tool gives you access to the Smoke Grenade, which gets you a free hand rip out of your opponent's hand. Yeah, OCG still has Smoke Grenade. It's actually really wild. And then, you know, to top things off, once again, you're going to step on through Chaos Ruler here, and you're going to look at your opponent and you're going to go, you know, like, what can you do here? Like, what are the outs that you can present to kind of try to stop me from going off? And, well, the answer is, it's going to be a rough game. Once again, Chaos Ruler, such a stupid good card. And then next up here, we have our Mana Dome list. Now, I'm a huge fan of Mana Dome, but the problem with this deck is a lot of people just don't know how to handle it, I guess is going to be the best way to go about it. Now, this list is playing a mini sprite package. I love the fact that a lot of these lists are taking advantage of sprite packages because it shows that, you know, they want you to play this as a sub package. I mean, you have so many level 2 good cards in this deck that it's actually kind of crazy at the end of the day. Now, keep in mind, for this particular list, we're Chaos Ruler free. Also, I mean, the fact that you can make the Vices Starfrost fusion in this deck through a massive pressure point on the opponent is going to be really good. And also, you know, you get an in-house stupid broken card in this deck for Synchro. So, yeah, the more that a deck like this can pressure the opponent, the more overall advantage and craziness I think that you're going to see out here. So, Mana Dome actually having success is a very good thing. Next up here, we're going to have Dynamorphia. Now, when I first saw this deck, I was so excited. Like, the levels of innovation that the OCG is pulling together here for this is nuts. Like, I'm a huge fan of this deck, but the problem is you have to make some card choices that some people might not find the most optimal. Like, you have to play Chaos Angel in here. This build is playing a mini Labyrinth list because the way that the metagame is, it's just an unfortunate, very big downside of things that you have to make subpar calls in order to kind of keep up with the localized metagame. So I am happy to see that Dynamorphia is, in fact, doing something, but at the cost of just really hard deck building choices. You would think with a trap deck like this that has so much dedication that you'd be able to get some free chicken nuggies, but you do have to play some cards that might not actually work for you, but Debunk is good. Next up here is, this is the Ice Jade deck. I was so excited when I saw this. So when I say Ice Jade, this is a Marincess deck that is actually playing the Ice Jade mini package in it, which gives you access to make a big water synchro. Now, you're probably asking yourself, like, what is the purpose of playing this with Marincess? Well, getting some Marincess cards down in the graveyard, depending on how you open up, isn't necessarily a bad thing. Also, I mean, you're deploying 2 water monsters on the field at that point, which means that you could technically start making some power link plays and start climbing up into some extra deck resources that you normally might not be able to do. The Ice Shade card is a very good card. Effectively allows a lot of cool doors to be opened in terms of the synchro lines of play, and it definitely puts a new spin on Marincess, putting this deck in a pretty interesting position, honestly. I'm very happy to see that at the overall end of the day, so good stuff with that. And then we also have Runic here. I love seeing Runic come out of the OCG. Like, this is one of my favorite decks in the game. Literally do-it-yourself turbo. Now, the amount of floodgates you're playing here between rivalries, there can only be ones, Gozens, and even skill drain itself, you're kind of forced to rely on those floodgates in order to, unfortunately, play the game. The game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a very, very, very unfun place at the end of the day. You do see that we are setting the Runic Allure down there. I believe in certain matchups where, you know, you definitely need to speed up the process of milling your opponent out would be the times that you would bring that card in order to further pressure the opponent. I see that we're also playing Dark Bribes, Evenly Matched, all the good stuff that you would want to see in a deck like this. Also, before you're like, does Potted Desires really conflict in this deck? Just deck thins you a little bit better, shaves off some potential bad resources so you can play the game. Also, card demise at 3 is one of the stupidest things that I've ever seen in the game. So, very, very, very good at the end of the day. And the last deck we're going to be looking at here is Trap Tricks. Yes, Trap Tricks still showing up in the OCG every blue moon here. Now, I think what makes this list very, very, well, it's very, very standard. Different Dimension Ground is definitely an interesting take on this deck. You don't really tend to see Different Dimension Ground in this deck kind of take off all that much, but you're kind of forced at this point in the metagame to make some calls that might not feel the best, but if you're able to resolve them, you're going to go into a winning position, and your opponent's just going to be like, what am I supposed to do here? And that's what you want to see. So that wraps up your Metagame Recap 3 for the block. What do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.